Hello, I'm Christopher Carruthers. You might know me also as Tao of Satoshi, and you're watching a very special episode of Cash Alternative TV. I had to drink a lot of instant coffee to make it. I even missed my lottery Instapics because of it. I'm definitely going to post it on Instagram. Join me as I challenge some commonly held beliefs about Dash's launch. You're watching Decentralized Deeper Thought, the truth about Dash, and it's starting now. Dash has a history of being one of the most innovative coins in the cryptocurrency space. Achievements such as Private Send, Instant Send, and the Decentralized Autonomous Organization have gained accolades from peers and spawned many copycat projects. Dash is used globally and is a rising star with a feature suite perfect for being a digital cash. Despite all of this, the rocky launch of Dash in 2014 was definitely far from exemplary. For founder and lead developer Evan Duffield, it was a struggle to establish something he had never done before. Did you know that Dash was born as Xcoin? Give yourself a pat on the back if you did. Mistakes and miscommunications were definitely made, and not everyone had a smooth experience in the beginning. Over time, as Dash began to rise in prominence, some groups with unknown motivations began to examine the launch. They gleaned some facts about what happened and added some negative spin and assumptions. As a result, they succeeded in convincing themselves and many others that Dash is a scam. They then posted and displayed this information anytime and anywhere they could. To this day, many people in the crypto industry believe these assertions, although not a shred of hard evidence exists to back up their negative claims about Dash. The Cambridge English Dictionary defines ambiguity as the fact of something having more than one possible meaning and therefore possibly causing confusion. The beginnings of Dash feature a lot of these types of facts. Had the researchers been more thorough in their work, they could have cut through a lot of the ambiguity and reached more informed conclusions. In this video, I will examine one of the more famous videos on this subject. I will break down what is factual and what are assumptions based on the ambiguity of those facts. Disclaimer: I am a Dash community member, but this presentation will remain neutral and factual. Whether you are a Dash community member or someone who has been influenced by the flawed conclusions of the narrator, you will learn some things about Dash's early days here. Many hours of research and hard work went into this video. If you like it, please send some coin to my address in the comments below. The video we'll be watching today is called Could Dash Be a Scam? A Brief History, and it was made in 2017 by Decentralized Thought. Without further ado, let's get into this.
I realize that calling someone a fraud or a scam is a huge accusation, and I don't take this lightly. I've done tens of hours of research before I made the decision to make this video. It surprised me that no one else has, since Dash is currently 7th highest in the market cap with $5.5 billion. So here it is, a brief history of Dash.
Okay, where do we start?
We need to start at the very beginning.
Of course, maybe even before the beginning.
On the 29th of December 2013, Evan and his partners sent out an email to the Bitcoin dev mailing list, saying that he and his partners were looking to hire 1 or 2 developers to help with a for-profit startup, and they had a detailed plan on how to implement it. This is important because Evan's official response claims that he coded up by himself on a weekend with no future plans on the project and that it was just a hobby. This is false.
What's happening here is the narrator taking a couple of proven facts, adding in assumptions, and concluding negative intent. The facts here are these. Evan and his partner Kyle Hagen posted that email to the Bitcoin dev mailing list, enlisting developers for a blockchain startup, and Xcoin was launched 3 weeks later. That's it. The narrator takes these raw facts and claims that just because Evan and Kyle had detailed plans on how to proceed with the coin, there's no way it could have been a hobby, and there's no way he could have created the code in 1 weekend. He then insinuates that Evan intentionally deceived with his explanation. This is speculation presented as fact. Now let's hear Evan's side of the story. Here is a video clip where he explains what happened. Let's watch.
I'm the founder, and so what happened in the beginning was I was working a full-time job, and this was just a hobby, and I decided to see if I could make a solution to fungibility in my spare time. I coded it up in a weekend, and I was really excited, and I pushed it out, and it kind of exploded.
Astute viewers will note Evan mentioning that he was working a full-time job while planning to release Xcoin. As such, saying that crypto was like a hobby to him was reasonable. He could only code in his spare time. Hobbies can be detailed. Have you ever tried learning advanced chess strategy, learning a new language, or astronomy? He claims he created the original Xcoin code in one weekend, and because of this, the launch ran into problems. Can anyone prove he didn't? While Evan and Kyle may have had detailed plans, it's not known if they were short-term or long-term plans. Evan may have only given himself one weekend to code Xcoin due to his excitement and rush to launch. The two raw facts could lead to all kinds of conclusions when observers are left to fill in their own blanks. In fairness, though, except for the full-time job, none of Evan's claims are verifiable either. However, the narrator makes the assertion that based on the assumptions he outlines, Evan's a dirty liar.
This is false.
Considering we have two different accounts around the same facts, this issue can be chalked up as ambiguous. The facts alone simply can't support the narrative that Evan's explanation wasn't valid.
This is false.
It's a total fabrication.
The narrator attempts to convince you here that there weren't many fortune seekers around mining any new coin they came across.
On January 18th, Evan posted his coin, now called Xcoin, to the Bitcoin Talk forums to get the project started. Immediately there were some problems. It's worth noting that there was almost no information available on the coin, so there really wasn't a reason for many people to mine it unless you just mined a whole lot of different coins.
Let me paint a picture for you. The year is 2014. Bitcoin had just exploded in value in the last quarter of 2013, and this software was open source, so any Joe Blow could create their own cryptocurrency. Blockchain enthusiasts, seeing the potential of making serious profits from startup coins, would hang around the Bitcoin Talk forum just waiting for new coins to be launched. It was like the digital gold rush back then. These were the conditions in which Xcoin was launched. I know because I was there, along with quite a few of you out there, I would imagine. Give yourself a pat on the back again. What the narrator is saying in that clip is true to a certain point. It's a fact that there wasn't that much information available at the time about Xcoin. The narrator takes that fact and makes the assumption that there were few people interested in mining it. This is speculation again, presented as fact. However, there is evidence that there were multiple miners around mining Xcoin at the time. Here you can see them posting on the Bitcoin Talk forum. In fact, some early Xcoin entrepreneurs emerged. There were also some creators and users of Xcoin mining pools. Hash rate also steadily climbed after launch, as we'll see later. Lots of miners and activity. This is in stark contrast to what the narrator would have you believe. As the facts here can prove otherwise, this point can be considered safely debunked.
This is false.
It's totally made up.
That's important because this false premise will be crucial to future assumptions made by the narrator. Let's continue with the video.
And to the community's surprise, Evan had made this coin only mineable on Linux, locking out the majority of miners since 90% of computers run Windows.
The narrator rightly states that there was no Windows miner at the launch of Xcoin. However, the claim that Windows miners were locked out from Xcoin's launch and subsequent FASTMINE is false.
Pure fiction.
Windows is the dominant platform in the wider computing space. However, in the cryptocurrency mining realm, there's a tendency to prefer Linux due to the stability issues in Windows. Miners don't want to have to keep restarting their rigs and lose out on valuable mining time. As such, it makes sense that Evan may have concentrated on providing support for Linux to satisfy the majority of hardcore miners around at the time. However, miners who still preferred Windows were hooked up within the first 4 hours of the coin's existence. The user, iGothic3D, compiled a Windows binary so everyone could mine Xcoin. Now, this doesn't excuse the fact that there was no Windows miner provided by the dev team at launch, but it does show that there was support for both platforms and plenty of time to partake in the FASTMINE. So once again, the facts don't support the narrative.
No way.
Speaking of ambiguity, you're about to hear a truckload of it. Moving on.
Evan also told the community that the release was going to be delayed for days and definitely not hours, and that he would update everyone beforehand. Evan then surprised everyone a couple hours after stating that with the coin launch.
This is an assumption, possibly leading the viewer to believe that there was negative intent by the lead developer of Dash at the launch. The facts here are these. Let's get the obvious one out of the way first. The narrator states that Evan would update everyone well in advance. He clearly did, as you can see here. Now let's get to the quote from the Bitcoin Talk Dash thread in question here. The exact quote by the interested party states, "Best thing to do, I guess. Please confirm that you won't be launching after some minutes, hours, even if you fix it, and the sooner would be tomorrow. Thanks." This is where the facts end. As you can see, there is a lot going on in this sentence. It could be interpreted to mean that Evan should not launch Xcoin in the next minutes, hours, or tomorrow. Evan's response of definitely not could be interpreted to mean definitely not after minutes, definitely not after hours, or definitely not until tomorrow. Now the author uses this ambiguity to spin it in a negative way, saying that Evan explicitly stated he would not launch the coin after some days or hours. Another way to look at it would be that Evan assured the poster that he would not launch the coin within the next few minutes. That would be a perfectly reasonable message to get out of it, depending on your interpretation. As it turned out, Xcoin was launched over 5 hours after this post, not a couple like the narrator says. Due to the many possibilities of Evan's response to this post, this issue is the most ambiguous yet. Again, the facts alone can't support the narrative of intentional misdirection.
Not this time.
Let's keep watching.
And then we get to the Instamine. This is probably the most controversial part in the whole deal.
Yes, this is the big tamale and the issue that Dash's detractors hang their hat on again and again.
There was a bug, using quotation marks, there was a bug in the code that created a massive Instamine. Within the first hour, 500,000 coins were minted. Within 8 hours, 1.5 million coins were minted. And before the bug was fixed, 2 million coins were Instamined.
In this clip, the narrator is absolutely right. The facts are these. There was an Instamine in the first hours of Xcoin. The term Instamine, though, is actually a misnomer, as the coins were not instantly created. FASTMINE would be more appropriate, as over 1.8 million coins were created within the first 24 hours. The narrator takes a different approach this time. He nails the facts of the matter, but he counts in the ambiguity by not explaining the why. He only explains the what and leaves the uninformed assumptions to the viewer. I wanted to know why, so I looked deeper. Here's a video where Evan explains the creation of the first Xcoin client. Let's watch.
And so what happened was I was working with Dash as a hobby, and it was solely something I did in one weekend, and then I launched it the next weekend. And so in between that, I was working all the time, and I didn't really think it through. I didn't actually do a lot of testing, and so what I did with the first client was I based it off of PrimeCoin, which it has a different difficulty algorithm, which I liked, and it moves around, and I thought it was neat how it's based. Like the reward is tied to the difficulty, and that was an interesting, economic experiment within itself. And so I took that, and I took some ideas from Port, which was X11, and that worked out great. And I forked Litecoin, and so I launched it, and it just blew up. And there's no other way about it. And so over about 24 hours, 2 million coins were mined.
Fascinating. It blew up, says Evan. Did it ever? My research into this FASTMINE led me to some fascinating discoveries which are not commonly known. Before I continue, it will help to explain how coin emission works. For any digital currency, the whole purpose of mining is to add transactions to a decentralized ledger and to provide security. The code includes a block reward to miners who provide hash power from these computers to solve the mathematical equations needed to do so. The equations, known as difficulty, can get easier or harder depending on total hash rate. This is known as a difficulty adjustment. Bitcoin's difficulty adjustment kicks in every 2016 blocks, and its block reward halves every 210,000 blocks. Other proof-of-work coins also use this system. It's pretty slow to update though, and can lead to problems. A quick influx of hash rate well before adjustment time can lead to increased risks of 51% attacks and restructuring of the blockchain. A sudden decrease in hash rate well before adjustment time can seriously slow down the coin, or even paralyze it.
Thanks for the lessons, Professor.
With that in mind, let's continue. Xcoin at launch was CPU mineable, and was based mostly on the Litecoin codebase. Did you know that Litecoin also had a FASTMINE? Between Litecoin Block 3 and Litecoin 10,091, less than 24 hours later, over 500,000 coins were FASTMINed. Blocks were produced on average of every 8.5 seconds in Litecoin's FASTMINE, as compared to around every 20 seconds in Xcoin's. Because of this fact, a common explanation about Xcoin's FASTMINE was that it was due to a bug originated from Litecoin. However, although the two coins shared a huge emission at launch, the reasons behind them were different. Litecoin creator Charlie Lee correctly defends Litecoin's FASTMINE as being based on setting the initial difficulty level too low. Litecoin's difficulty formula, inherited from Bitcoin, was not able to adjust fast enough to the amount of hash power it received at the beginning. He doesn't know if Xcoin kept the same parameters as Litecoin or changed them. As we've just seen, Evan did change the parameters. Ironically, fairer and more responsive mining and rewards seemed to be a priority for him at launch. Xcoin was designed with a feature that would have avoided the Litecoin type FASTMINE had it worked properly.
And bad mistakes, I've made a few.
As Evan described earlier, Xcoin began as quite a mutt, based mostly on Litecoin but with some aspects from other coins. Yay, open source! The X11 hashing algorithm was inspired by QuarkCoin, and the dynamic difficulty and block reward formula was from PrimeCoin. The PrimeCoin code was designed to adjust the mining difficulty and reward after every block in response to total hash rate. When the amount of hash power directed at it was low, the formula was to decrease difficulty and increase the block reward to entice new miners to join. When the amount of hash power rose, the code was to increase the difficulty and decrease the block reward in proportion. That brings us to the launch. The block reward, assuming minimum difficulty, was set at 500 Xcoin to start, as opposed to 50 in Litecoin. After mining was underway, the miners present began noticing problems. The difficulty and reward algorithm from PrimeCoin was not working as designed. It was not adjusting regardless of the amount of hash power thrown at it.
It just blew up.
Evan since described the problem in this way. An error could be seen in the first block calculation function getBlockValue, which incorrectly converted the difficulty, then tried using a corrupt value to calculate the subsidy. So blocks were being solved at a rate a little under half as fast as Litecoin's FASTMINE, and the block reward didn't decrease. Good for all the miners present at the time, but without adjustment, Xcoin would have kept on issuing the max block reward forever, leading to an infinite number of coins. It took a while for users to discover this bug, as there was no block explorer at this stage. Once the issue was known, Evan quickly updated the code and fixed the formula. This fix was implemented at block 4500.
Breathe.
Xcoin began a normal reward schedule from that point, but Evan wouldn't be out of the woods yet. He would run into more problems before perfecting what would be the second of his multiple innovations. Smile if you learned something new here. How many of you have screwed up royally while attempting something new? When the technical reasons for the FASTMINE are known, it begins to make more sense, and you can start to see that it was likely not intentional. No way to know for sure, but the facts alone can't support any negative intent.
No way.
The narrator plays math professor in this next clip.
Evan claims that this is not an issue because hundreds of people were mining during this time.
And, a lot of those went to, a lot of different people. I estimate about somewhere between 100 and 1,000 people were mining in that first 24 hours.
But if you follow and look at the nodes he listed, out of 127, 27 were actual people with actual computers, and 100 of them were rented cloud computers, and somebody pre-set up these to mine. You can follow the IP addresses yourself, the who is. So who would have the foresight to rent 100 cloud computers to mine a worthless coin at a time that no one was expecting it, and when it did, it wasn't even functional?
I confirm the first point the narrator makes here. The fact is that there were many cloud servers mining Dash at the time of launch. Some were from Amazon Web Services and some were from Microsoft. I even know that Evan's partner Kyle had spun up quite a few himself.
To mine a worthless coin.
The narrator insinuates that Evan must be the one that owned all of these cloud servers. I agree it's likely that if his partner set up some of these servers, he likely did too, but there's no hard evidence to support that. And there's also no evidence to suggest that all of the cloud servers were run by the two founders. Some of them could have been the other miners who have shown you were around at the launch, just waiting to mine the next big thing.
To mine a worthless coin.
Again, the narrator counts on the ambiguity of that situation to sway the viewer. He also wrongly states, as you've seen, that no one was expecting the launch, and also that Dash was not functional.
This is false.
Also, make no mistake, Dash was Evan's creation. If he and his partner were ready to mine a ton of these worthless coins, that was their business. If you made a hit record, you deserved the royalties. If you were aces at hitting a baseball, you deserved the big contract. He announced the launch for all interested parties to see, and kept to the schedule. He has since helped create a popular digital currency with many innovations. That was only done through a lot of talent and fluid hard work. I get it, people in retrospect place a greater degree of severity on what happened due to present conditions. But think about it, there was no way of knowing whether Dash would achieve the success it has when Evan flipped the switch in 2014. Xcoin at launch was monopoly money, and the people mining it were given no guarantees. The narrator also counts on the ambiguity of the situation to imply that Evan probably mined the majority of the coins in this 24-hour period. Do you think this is true? Let's dig deeper. Evan publicly declared the amount of coins he claimed to have at the Phoenix open house in 2017.
I have 256,000 coins to my own possession.
Wait, that can't be right. If Evan had the vast majority of the hash rate in that 24-hour period, as implied by the narrator, how could he only have 256,000 coins of the nearly 2 million mined? The answer lies in research performed by Ryan Taylor, who was then Dashcore Director of Finance and is now Dashcore Group CEO. Let's watch.
So there were 2 million total coins produced in the first 48 hours. Okay. He did not get them all. Okay. I actually did a pretty interesting analysis because I wanted to do my own due diligence on this issue. Sure. And I published it. I basically made a bunch of very generous assumptions, like that the first couple hundred blocks were all him and only him, and that no one else was mining it, and therefore that was probably the capacity that he had to mine. I made a bunch of assumptions. I won't go through the full list, right, but there was a very long list of assumptions. Everybody on the network was getting rejects at the time. And I came to a number that was very close to that independently. That analysis is published. It's on Bitcoin Talk.
I found the research Ryan is referring to on Bitcoin Talk, and I will link to it in the description. I highly recommend reading it. It's very well done research. In it, Ryan examines the coin emission and network hash rate, both at launch and in 100-block increments for the first 24-hour period. All of this information is publicly available using tools in the Dash Wallet command line. He creates a table with all of that information displayed in an easy-to-read form. Here is that graph. I've separated the time periods into the first 500 blocks in yellow, the next 600 blocks in green, the time of a code update in red, and the remaining blocks of the FASTMINE in blue. Ryan makes some generous assumptions here. He grants Evan and Kyle 100% of the hash rate at launch, here in yellow, leading to around 245,000 coins between them. Other miners, probably some of the ones I showed you earlier, began joining in for the next 600 block period, here in green. The developers' portion of the reward begins declining. During the update period in red, Ryan grants the developers again 100% of the hash rate, leading to all the rewards. A lot more miners begin to pile in during the blue period between that update and the end of the FASTMINE. The developer's portion of the hash rate steadily falls to less than 1% by that time. Those numbers, which are verifiable publicly, lead to Evan and Kyle having accumulated approximately 518,000 coins between them, which I will grant you is a huge amount, but it's only 1/4 of the FASTMINE output and less than 3% of the total Dash that will ever be mined. This makes Evan's claims of 256,000 coins quite plausible. Were you aware of this information? Likely not, as it's buried deep in the bowels of Dash's massive Bitcoin Talk announcement thread. Unlike the narrator, I've cut through the ambiguity to examine the data. Now that you know more facts, the launch of Dash seems pretty fair, all things considering. It was announced in advance, support existed for both Linux and Windows, many miners partook, and everyone was rolling in sweet worthless Xcoin. Perfect? Far from it. But definitely not as scary as some would have you believe.
To mine a worthless coin.
Not this time.
Next, the narrator throws some more numbers at you.
And then we get to lowering of the cap. At this point, the pre-mine was 2 million coins out of a possible 84 million. So about 2.5% of the maximum coins that could ever be. Soon after, Evan decided to rebrand again, and this was the third time from DARKCOIN to Dash, changing the total supply from 84 million to 18 million. The existing coins did not change, so the pre-mine that was 2.5% of the max supply turned into 11%.
The narrator starts to lose credibility at this point by continuing to refer to the launch of Dash as a pre-mine. He will unravel even further later on. I, however, will continue sticking to the facts. I must admit, my research into this matter led me to some fascinating discoveries. I will get the easy ones out of the way first. The narrator implies that Dash's name changes were done in an attempt to cover up the fact that the supply was lowered. In reality, the name change from Xcoin to DARKCOIN was done after only 9 days of its existence. This was well before Evan finished perfecting the difficulty and reward formula, as you'll see later. And the change from DARKCOIN to Dash was made due to community pressure to have a name more marketable to the mainstream. It was done almost a full year after the last of those changes took place. The facts, therefore, don't support the narrative.
It's false.
Now, let's examine the 84 million initial total supply figure mentioned by the narrator. This max supply figure was based on Litecoin's emission schedule. Litecoin, with a fixed block reward and halving every 840,000 blocks, will reach around 84 million coins sometime in the future. Xcoin, you'll remember, was designed with a variable block reward based on hash rate and difficulty. It didn't work at first, but I've already covered that.
I was trying to just build this difficulty algorithm, and I should have tested it a lot more.
Oh, Evan. Essentially, if Dash had ever reached 84 million coins, it would be because no one cared about it and directed their hash power at another coin. It's no secret that Dash has since become extremely popular with miners, going from beyond GPU mining to ASICs. Dash's minimum block reward has been in effect for quite some time, so the total supply, even without Evan's adjustments, would have been far less than 84 million. That's a very important fact to know, and I wonder if the narrator knew that. If only the supply lowering was as simple as he describes, my research would have been easy. Evan's early quest for a well-balanced difficulty and block reward formula, coupled with circumstances out of his control, led to multiple adjustments. Did you know that in Xcoin's first 2 months, it was adjusted down, up, and down again to the stable version Dash has today? The potential future supply of Dash went up and down with it. Hands up if you knew that. I have a fun game for you. I've marked each change Evan made to Dash's difficulty and reward formula with a short Inspector Gadget clip. Count them and let me know how many there were at the end. Ready? Let's go.
And bad mistakes, I've made a few.
Evan's block 4500 fix did its job to quell the FASTMINE, but in fixing that mistake, he began to overcompensate.
Go, Gadget, brother!
The code now included a block reward halving every 2 years. That change drastically cut the total supply potential of the coin. 3 days later, though, he would have a change of heart.
Go, Gadget, legs!
He felt that the block 4500 fix was too harsh, and he pushed an update that contained several mining incentives and more closely followed difficulty. This update would have the long-term effect of raising the total supply. Around a month later, DARKCOIN, as it was then called, would experience a massive increase in hash rate, expected to be due to botnets, multi-pools, or the advent of GPU miners. There was a fear in the community that the entity behind it could pull off a 51% attack, or the coin would be left paralyzed if that hash rate withdrew. In response to the concerns, Evan moved DARKCOIN to a new difficulty algorithm called Komodo Gravity Well.
Go, Gadget, car!
KGW was the most refined formula to regulate difficulty at the time. It did its job and the coin stabilized. Less than a week later, Evan made the biggest downward adjustment to the coin supply. Citing that he wanted to line up DARKCOIN's emission with that of other GPU coins at the time, he updated the block reward formula.
Go, Gadget, go!
He lowered the block reward minimum and maximum and made the halving now occur every year. This brought the total possible supply to an all-time low of around 10 million DARKCOIN.
Metaphysics, Julia!
He would later explain his new interest in lowering the cap as creating interest from investors who didn't want to invest in a coin with a huge supply. Up to this point, communication with the community about the extent of these changes was scarce. Once the community learned about them, they began expressing their concerns. Some viewed it as being unfair to newcomers as compared to early miners, and complained about the fast miners now having almost 20% of the total supply. Realizing his mistake and the bad optics of the halving feature, Evan listened to the community and removed all instances of halving from the DARKCOIN code.
Go, Gadget, claw!
This was a huge boon to the total coin supply, bringing the maximum total much closer to the 84 million originally intended. While this change pleased some others then complained that the value of their recently bought coins were now going to be diluted. Evan found out what many leaders have found out throughout history. You simply can't please everyone. He was trying to please the DARKCOIN community, but he was stuck between two schools of thought. Those who believed that the coin supply should be lowered to make each coin more scarce, and those that thought the value should stay the same to be true to the original plan. The next month, March 2014, Evan would complete his vision of a smooth variable difficulty and reward formula for DARKCOIN.
Go Gadget Arms!
It was called Dark Gravity Wave, and it became the second innovation claimed by DARKCOIN after the X11 hashing algorithm. DGW was an improvement on the weaknesses of Komodo Gravity Well, and is used by many coins to this day. About a week after that, he attempted to reach a compromise with the DARKCOIN community by offering a middle ground. Not a halving, but a 20% reduction in the block reward yearly. This was put to a vote, and after some discussion, fine-tuning, and approval, Evan implemented the 7% yearly reduction in the block reward that Dash currently has today.
Go Gadget Copter!
This brought Dash's max supply to a range of around 18 to 21 million coins, similar to Bitcoin. How many inspectors did you count? If you said 7, you were right. So the narrator would have you believe that Evan simply lowered the cap from 84 million to 19 million, changed the name to Dash, and called it a day. When you dive deeper, you can see this clearly isn't the case.
Not this time.
Some early mistakes and overreaching solutions leading to community pressure, compromise, innovation, and stability. All changes were posted publicly, and outside interest in the coin grew stronger throughout. It was sure messy, though. Evan was right. He should have tested the code more thoroughly before launch. He would not make the same mistake with future innovations, though. The narrator describes one of his biggest innovations in this next clip. Let's watch.
A masternode is a node that requires 1,000 Dash to be locked away. These masternodes all vote to make changes and decisions. And at the same time, the block rewards were restructured. So instead of the block rewards going to the miners, like most coins in Bitcoin, now 45% go to the miners, 10% goes into a community fund, and 45% is split between the masternodes.
Yes, there is nothing I can fault the narrator for here. Dash's philosophy is that miners, while definitely performing a vital service to the blockchain, are not the only ones that contribute to a healthy, growing Dash ecosystem. Other contributors can also be incentivized to maximize Dash's potential and user experience. Dash's block reward has been split to fund those other contributors. Masternodes were the first to share in Dash's block reward. Masternodes form Dash's decentralized second-tier network. This network makes a great amount of blockchain functionality possible. Well-known YouTuber FASTMINE describes masternodes in this short clip.
So those are masternodes, and currently there are thousands of masternodes out there. They also serve additional functions. So the two major features of Dash, basically instant send and private send, all rely on masternodes to function. So they actually function within a network. They kind of verify, they kind of transfer these transaction information just like in Bitcoin, but they can also say, okay, this transaction is taking place and I can vouch for that. And that's what instant send how instant send kind of works in a very, very short summary.
As FASTMINE says, masternodes are numerous and very important to the functioning of Dash. They host the processes that lead to Dash's unique instant and private transaction technology. They also act as stable full nodes, keeping a copy of the Dash blockchain accessible for all. It's true, masternodes need a 1,000 Dash collateral to operate. This is to prevent Sybil attacks, which Geeks for Geeks defines as a type of attack in peer-to-peer networks in which a node in the network operates multiple identities actively at the same time and undermines the authority, power, and reputation systems. To incentivize users to collateralize 1,000 Dash and set up a masternode, Dash gradually reassign a portion of the block reward to the masternodes. Each masternode gets paid for their services from the blockchain when its turn arrives. With the announcement of Dash Core version 12 in August 2014, Dash officially became the first decentralized organization, or DAO for short. Dash's new DAO came complete with a decentralized treasury. This treasury was funded with its own portion of the block reward. Masternodes and miners each sacrifice 5% towards the 10% of each block reward that now rewards the treasury. Here is a shot of the breakdown, which remains the same today. Masternode operators, who have the most at stake in Dash, are now expected to help guide its course. Contractors, such as the Dash Core Group, make proposals to the masternode network. If a proposal should receive 10% net positive vote, it will get payment directly from the Dash blockchain with no middleman. So, for a block reward that used to be only for miners, Dash can now help pay for its stability, quality of hardware, software development, marketing, legal and adoption efforts, the list goes on and on. It's really been a help to Dash. Something tells me, though, that the narrator has a but coming.
This is a massive change because the majority of the masternode coins come from the 2 million pre-mine. And now they receive 45% of all new coins minted. This makes the pre-mine coins produce more currency than a Dash mining farm could ever produce, the largest one, with none of the equipment cost, with none of the electricity cost, with none of the heat, none of the troubles.
There it is. The narrator has a problem with the FASTMINE crew participating in masternode ownership. He claims that the FASTMINE crew have the majority of the coins that collateralize the masternode network. Let's dive a little deeper. Again, I'll get the easy one out of the way first. The most recent count of Dash supply is over 9 million, so 2 million is not a majority of that.
This is false.
It's fiction.
And as we've learned, the FASTMINE was likely fairer than the narrator assumes. So even if the FASTMiners kept all of their coins, there would be not any one entity with an overwhelming amount of influence. On top of that, it's proven that massive amounts of Dash changed hands since then, with transactions between users, exchange hacks, and dumps, and regular buying and selling on the exchanges.
I estimate about somewhere between 100 and 1,000 people were mining in that first 24 hours. And then there was a huge rise in price, and a lot of them got out, and it dispersed those coins.
Dash community member CoinGun created and ran a program to visualize this distribution. It shows the amount and value of Dash's transactions with price and hash rate. All of the information used is publicly verifiable. As you can see, Evan correctly notes that there was a lot of activity after the FASTMINE and when the price of DARKCOIN first exploded. CoinGun also displayed a graphic of the then current Dash distribution. The research shows without a doubt that a lot of coins did change hands in those early days. So the facts are these. The 2 million Dash from the FASTMINE are nowhere near a majority, and many of those coins change hands early on. As such, the narrator's concerns don't have a basis in reality.
Not this time.
He also clearly has a problem with masternodes receiving a portion of the block reward. When you understand that they only receive this reward in exchange for services that enable Dash's unique features, it makes sense. You may not agree with it, but it makes sense.
I believe that they planned it. They knew that the code bug was there, and that's why they put such a difficult barrier to entry in mining.
At this point of the video, the narrator stops making factual sense. He starts using the term "I believe" to further his claims.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky.
Let's dive deeper. He believes that Evan and Kyle planned the FASTMINE. He bases this on the letter to the Bitcoin dev mailing list that we covered earlier. He conflates the fact that the dev team had plans for Xcoin with them planning the FASTMINE. He doesn't provide any evidence to back up this theory, however. He just believes.
I believe.
He believes that Evan and Kyle knew about the bug resulting from the amalgamation of different coin technology into Xcoin. He provides no evidence of this either. He simply believes.
I believe.
He believes that Evan and Kyle deliberately set a high barrier into mining. As I've shown you earlier, support for Linux was there from the start, and a Windows binary was provided and used 4 hours into the FASTMINE. So whatever mining barrier there wasn't that hard to overcome. The narrator provides no proof that Evan and Kyle set this barrier deliberately. He just believes.
I believe.
He continues his slide into the abstract with this next clip.
I also believe that him and his team also rented out the 100 cloud servers to mine, and probably a portion of the 27 actual computers that were mining were also Evan or his team.
The narrator really starts pouring it on here.
I believe.
He now believes that the 100 cloud computers, which were from Amazon and Microsoft, and a good portion of the individual computers were owned by Evan and his team. Again, he provides no proof of this, he just believes.
I believe. We made up this one.
What else does he have for us?
I do not think that all of the masternodes are Evan's. I believe that a large portion of them are. You would not need to have all of them. You only need a large portion.
Okay, he believes that a large portion of the masternodes belong to Evan, and he believes that you don't need all of them, you only need a large portion. Since he doesn't clarify what a large portion is, and doesn't clarify what you need a large portion to do, I'll let that one slide.
I believe.
Next, the narrator gives some advice that I have taken and also recommend for anyone watching this video.
But I advise not to take anyone's word for it. Do the research, look at the proof, look at the records, look at the addresses, look at the distribution.
I've done just that. I've covered all of these things in this video. The narrator did inspire me to research into Dash's beginnings more, so I could find out that his conclusions about Dash were based on false truths, negative assumptions, and limited facts. I encourage you to do the same. You can start with the description below, which details most everything shown in this video. For now, keep watching. The narrator claims to have done tens of hours of research to make this video.
I've done tens of hours of research.
No way to know for sure, but it's interesting that he basically repeats all the talking points of this post by Monero community member Denalior. This post was made in October 2015 and contains all the limited facts and negative assumptions based on those facts that we see in this video.
I've done tens of hours of research.
Did he really? Let's continue.
One of the addresses, just one of them, from the pre-mine up until 2016 held 600,000 Dash. Nearly 10% of the coins in existence today before they're redistributed. And I think it's obvious that that was probably Evan's address.
Well, folks, he finally did it. The narrator just completely exposed himself as being full of something not so polite to say. He draws the viewer's attention to a Dash address he claims had 600,000 coins in it in 2016, and that the address originated from the FASTMINE. He then states that he thinks it's obvious that this was Evan's address.
I've done tens of hours of research.
Okay, he's done tens of hours of research, so that must check out. I wanted to know for sure, so I dove deeper. I copied the address in question from his YouTube video description section and plugged it into a block explorer. The first thing that stood out for me was the shocking number of coins that had gone through this address. It's empty now, but in its history it had seen almost 17 million coins go through it. I then scrolled down the list of transactions. I wanted to see if what the narrator said was true, that this address originated from the FASTMINE. This particular block explorer only shows you the last 100 transactions, but it offers you an option to download the full history on a CSV file. I did just that and scrolled down through all the addresses, all 1,700 transactions to the very first one.
BINGPOT! Nope, I was gonna say bingo, but then I was like, jackpot's better, but then it was too late. I was halfway through the word.
BINGPOT works. It's taken off.
It's taken off. Yeah.
The first input to this address took place in November 2014 at block 167,014. The Xcoin FASTMINE took place in January 2014 at block 1, almost a year before this address was established. Also, this address had never been mined to. Now surely you would think that someone who says,
I've done tens of hours of research,
would have gone through the trivial process I just did to verify if his statements were true.
It never happened.
There's no telling who owned this address: a fast miner, a wealthy investor, an exchange thief, a corporation. It could be anybody. The narrator's credibility in this issue is now fully blown. He reveals himself as just a doodler promoting an agenda.
this is false.
It's an urban legend that never happened.
The doodler goes through a bit more of Dash's history in this next clip.
Evan asked the community if he wanted to airdrop everyone tokens to make up for the pre-mine, and they voted not to. That's true, but Evan offered to airdrop 2 million coins that were instantly created and just produce more of the supply. He would still have his initial 2 million from the pre-mine.
The doodler, while still rambling about pre-mines and Evan's 2 million coins, correctly states that Evan offered to do an airdrop to the community in a misguided attempt to balance out the FASTMINE. For someone who is responsible for a ton of blockchain innovation, this definitely was not Evan's finest moment. The community reaction to this was nearly unanimous. Responses like, "Terrible idea," "I'm out," "Bad idea," and "No, no, 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 no," led Evan to drop the idea entirely. So the airdrop never happened, but the offer remains a part of Dash's history. I can't begin to imagine what Evan was thinking here. Luckily, the wisdom of the crowd prevailed in this case. The doodler makes another point here.
He did not offer to start over, which he could have done as soon as he saw the bug, would have been the obvious thing to do, but he just let it keep going until it was over.
With this claim, there are some contradictory elements. Here is Evan's official comments on this.
And so at the beginning, like right after we discovered what happened, we asked the community, do you want to restart? And they said no. And I just went with it because, you know, the community wants that. And I mean, I don't care either way. I would have restarted and still worked on it.
This claim by Evan was also echoed by a few community members on Bitcoin Talk. I searched for a long time to find evidence of this vote to restart DARKCOIN. I enlisted help from Dash community members and asked for help on Dash's communication channels. I was not able to find any evidence of this vote. If you are watching this and can provide evidence, please do so and I will pin it in the description. As of recording, I will have to admit that I could only find mentions of this vote by Evan and some community members. I will say though, even if this vote never took place, miners still continue to support the project and people continue to contribute their skills. Those who didn't approve only had to sell their coins and invest in something else. There may not have been a direct vote, but people could make their opinions known by their actions. The fact is that the Dash project is now thriving with global adoption and many innovations, despite its rocky past. That's telling in a lot of ways. The doodler reaches the grand conclusion after all of his mistruths, limited facts, and negative assumptions that Dash is a scam.
It's a scam.
Let's think about that for a moment. Let's pretend I didn't spend this whole video challenging every word he said. Let's pretend he spent more time researching than doodling. Let's pretend everything he said about Evan and the launch was true. Now tell me, who would have been scammed? For something to be a scam, it needs to have victims. Who would have been the victims of Xcoin's FASTMINE? Who were the victims of Litecoin's FASTMINE? Who would have lost money as a direct result of these two FASTMINEs? This is what those who propagate this half-baked story can never answer. Speaking from my own experience, I joined the Dash community in May 2014, well after the FASTMINE. I did my due diligence about it. I came to the conclusion that there were a lot of mistakes made in the beginning, but things were starting to stabilize. I was captivated by Evan's ideas for new innovations in privacy and efficient payments. I was impressed that Dash wanted to fulfill Bitcoin's original promise as a decentralized electronic money and had a plan to do it. I invested a substantial amount of money in Dash and have done very well since. I don't begrudge Evan his stake in his own project because it's kept him motivated to help make Dash what it is today. I certainly wasn't scammed, nor was anyone who believes in the Dash vision and supports the project to this day.
It never happened.
That was my in-depth look into Dash's beginnings. I had fun making it, and I hope you've learned something new today. There were definitely some assumptions out there that needed to be challenged. You can find out more about the Dash project at our official website, www.dash.org, or join us in the community on the Dash Forum, DashPay subreddit, and Dash Nation on Discord server. All links will be below. Well, that's all for me today. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and smash that bell if you want to see more from me in Cash Alternative TV episodes. Until next time, remember, Dash is a digital alternative to cash, and becoming more so every day. Bye for now.